When the taxi stopped, the young soldier got in the back seat and said thank you. It was going to be a routine ride, until his eyes caught the small photograph hanging from the rearview mirror. 8 men, desert fatigues, Vietnam 1971, written underneath. The young soldier in the middle looked familiar, very familiar. He looked at the driver, then at the photo, then back at the driver. His heart began to race because this man was a legend. Welcome to the Human Stories. Before we begin this incredible story of discovery, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These stories must not be forgotten. Frank Miller had known the same spot at Chicago O'Hare Airport's taxi stand for 40 years. Yellow cab, license plate, 7419, always clean interior, radio always tuned to the same country music station. A 60-year-old man with gray hair and calm eyes. His customers usually called him Pops, and he would smile and wave back. Frank's decision to become a taxi driver wasn't a coincidence. After returning from Vietnam in 1975, he'd tried many jobs but never stayed long at any of them. Construction, security, cargo, the same problem everywhere. He preferred silence and solitude. Taxi work was perfect because customers were usually busy with their phones, and he could stay in his own world. The small photograph hanging from his taxi's rearview mirror had been there for 47 years, 3 by 5 inches, colors faded, edges worn. Most customers never even noticed it. Those who did usually said nice photo and moved on. Frank never offered explanations. There were 8 men in the photograph, all young, all wearing desert camouflage, all tired but smiling. Behind them were Vietnam forests, ahead an unknown future. The tall young soldier standing in the center had determination in his eyes. That young man was Frank Miller. 1971, 1975, U.S. Army Special Forces, 5th Green Beret Group. 4 years, 23 operations, countless covert missions, hostage rescue on the Laos border, intelligence gathering in Cambodia, search and rescue in the Mekong Delta. But Frank never told anyone about this. The past should stay in the past, he'd tell himself. People don't need to know. Frank's daily routine never changed. Wake up at 6, drink his coffee, check his taxi, and head to the airport. He'd usually make his first trip at 7:30, finish his last at 9 p.m. He'd take a 1-hour lunch break in between. His customers loved Frank. He drove safely, didn't talk too much, was always polite. He had regular customers. Dr. Patterson went to Nashville every Tuesday. Businesswoman Linda, New York trips twice a month. Retired teacher Mrs. Rodriguez, visiting her niece. But none of them knew Frank's past. To them, he was just a reliable, quiet taxi driver. Frank had very few Vietnam items at home. A metal box, his old uniform, and a few photographs, all hidden in a drawer. No military photos on the wall, no Vietnam memorabilia on the table, as if those 4 years had never happened. His neighbors thought Frank was a retired factory worker. He preferred to maintain this lie because the truth was too complicated. The trauma Vietnam veterans experienced, social prejudices, endless questions, he didn't want any of it. All he wanted was peace and silence. And for 40 years, he'd found it. Wednesday afternoon, Frank was waiting at the airport. Passengers from Terminal 2 were getting into taxis. It was a routine day, until the uniformed young man approached. Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, 28 years old, 82nd Airborne Division, returning from 2 weeks of leave, heading to Fort Bragg. He put his bag in the trunk and sat in the back seat. "Fort Bragg, please," Mike said. "Thank you." Frank nodded. "Sure, son. Coming back from leave?" "Yes, sir. Spent time with family." Frank started his taxi. Mike pulled out his phone, but there was no signal on the screen. Bored, he began looking around. The first thing that caught his attention was Frank's posture. He sat very straight, hands in perfect position on the steering wheel, eyes constantly moving between mirrors. Not traffic control, more like tactical scanning. This man must be a former soldier, Mike thought. Then he saw the small photograph on the rearview mirror. At first glance, he thought it was a normal family photo, but paying attention, he noticed the details: military uniforms, desert fatigues, green beret caps, and underneath, small writing, 5th SF Group, Vietnam 1971. Mike's heart raced. Green Beret, Special Forces, Vietnam. He examined the 8 men in the photograph, all young, all hard-eyed, all looking experienced. The tall soldier in the center caught his attention. Strong jaw, determined eyes, natural leadership position. Mike looked at the driver, at 60-year-old Frank Miller, then back at the photo. The resemblance was striking. Same jaw structure, same eye shape, same posture. 50 years apart, but definitely the same man. Mike's breath caught. If this was true, he was currently sitting in the same car as a Vietnam legend. "Sir," he said in a careful tone, "is that you in this photo?" Frank looked at Mike through the rearview mirror. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he answered in a calm voice, "Old picture. Vietnam. Yes. Green Beret." Frank took a deep breath. "Yes." Mike's eyes widened. "Which group?" "5th Special Forces." "I can't believe it," Mike said. You're a real Green Beret." Frank smiled. "Everyone was real back then. I mean, you're the real deal. You're a legend." Frank became uncomfortable. "I just did my job." But Mike didn't give up. "Sir, I studied military history. I know about Vietnam Special Forces. 5th Group. You guys served in Laos, Cambodia, covert operations." Frank paused. "Some things shouldn't be discussed. But you guys are heroes." "No," Frank said firmly. "We were just soldiers." Traffic got heavy. Frank slowed down. Mike seized the opportunity. "Sir, did you serve in the Phoenix program?" Frank's hands tensed on the steering wheel. "Phoenix program. Joint covert operations with CIA. Something very few people knew about. Even fewer talked about." "How do you know about that?" Frank asked. "I trained at Fort Bragg. We studied special operations history. Phoenix program was Vietnam's most classified operation." Frank stopped. After 47 years, someone was talking to him about Phoenix program. Life's irony. "I don't talk about these things," he said. "I know, sir. But, I mean, did you guys really exist? Or was it just legend?" Frank looked at Mike through the mirror. In this young man's eyes was respect, curiosity, but neither sensationalism nor idle curiosity. Genuine interest. "We existed," he finally said. "How many of you were there?" 8. "All in this photo?" "Yes." Mike's face lit up. "Incredible. I'm talking to a real legend." Frank gave a bitter smile. "I'm not a legend, just an old taxi driver." "What happened to the others? The team members?" Frank's face closed. He never liked this question. Some came back, some didn't. Mike understood. He didn't ask more. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Mike gathered courage. "Sir, can I tell you something? I'm listening. I'm trying to become a Green Beret at Fort Bragg. The selection process is very hard. Sometimes I want to give up." Frank looked at him through the rearview mirror. "Why?" "It's so heavy. Physical, mental, emotional. Everything is so hard. And sometimes I think, is it worth it?" Frank slowed down, stopped at a red light. He turned to Mike. "Son," he said, "sometimes people have to do big things, because if no one does them, they don't get done. If you want to be one of those men, difficulties are normal. But how did you endure? Weren't you afraid?" Frank smiled. "Of course we were afraid, but there was something stronger than fear." "What was that?" "The men beside us. The team. You fight for them, they fight for you. That's stronger than fear." Mike nodded. "I understand. And one more thing," Frank said. "Over time you realize that real strength isn't physical strength, it's mental strength, not giving up." Continuing, "Did you ever think about giving up?" Frank stopped. He remembered the difficult moments in Vietnam, days when he lost friends, times when morale was broken. "I thought about it," he said honestly, "but I didn't." "Why?" "Because the others trusted me. I trusted them. That trust was more important than anything." Traffic cleared. Frank hit the gas. Mike was thinking quietly. Then curiosity got the better of him. "Sir, can you tell me an operation story? If it's not classified, of course." Frank thought for a long time. After 47 years, telling someone about those days, it was an interesting feeling. In 1973, he began. "We had a mission on the Laos border. A pilot had gone down. The Viet Cong had him. We needed to rescue him." Mike leaned forward. "Continue." 8 of us went. Me and the other 7 men in the photo. The plan was simple. Go in, find the pilot, get out. Was it easy? Frank laughed bitterly. "It was never easy, son. When we went in, we walked into an ambush. A 40-man Viet Cong unit was waiting for us." Mike's breathing quickened. "What did you do?" "We fought. 6 hours, non-stop. We found the pilot, but he was wounded. We had to carry him." "Did you all make it out?" Frank's face darkened. "No. Jimmy Rodriguez, the young kid in the photo, was shot in the leg. Tony Martinez in the left arm. But we didn't leave any of us behind." "How?" "We took turns carrying them. I took Jimmy. Someone else took Tony. The pilot was already wounded. We walked 15 kilometers. The Viet Cong was constantly behind us." Mike was listening breathlessly. "Did you all survive?" Frank paused. "In that operation, yes. But Jimmy in the next operation didn't come back." Silence fell in the car. "I'm sorry," Mike said. "War is like that," Frank said. "Some come back, some don't. But we never forget." Mike looked at the photo again. Now he saw it differently, knowing these people's stories. "That's why you keep this photo here." "Yes, so we don't forget." "Do you keep in touch with them, the survivors?" Frank nodded. "Ron Phillips is in Colorado, Mark Stevens in Texas, Dave Wilson here in Chicago." "Do you meet?" "Once a year. Every year on Jimmy's death anniversary, we visit his grave." Mike was moved. This is real brotherhood. "Stronger than brotherhood," Frank said. Life and death friendship. The taxi approached Fort Bragg. Mike was experiencing mixed emotions. This journey had been the most impactful 2 hours of his life. "Sir," he said, "this conversation was very valuable to me." "For me too," Frank said, surprised. This was true. After 47 years, someone had really listened to him. "You gave me strength. I'm going to complete Green Beret selection." Frank smiled. "Good. But remember, mental strength is more important than physical strength. I won't forget. And fight for your team, not for yourself." "Understood." The taxi stopped at the Fort Bragg gate. Mike paid but didn't get out. "Sir, I want to thank you." "For what?" "For your service. And for talking to me today." Frank nodded. "I thank you. It's been a long time since anyone wanted to listen to those days." Mike opened the door, got out. He took his bag. Then he approached Frank's window. "Sir, I have a request." "What?" "Tell this story to others too. To young people, to kids who will become soldiers. They need to hear these stories." Frank thought, "I don't know. Please, your experiences are very valuable. They shouldn't be forgotten." Frank looked at him for a long time. Then he made his decision. "I'll think about it." Mike waved. "Goodbye, sir. And thank you again." Frank started his taxi, drove away. He watched Mike through the rearview mirror. The young soldier was standing at the gate, waving at him. That evening at home, Frank did something he hadn't done in a long time. He took out his Vietnam photographs. He opened the medal box. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Combat Infantryman Badge. He remembered them all. But he hadn't seen these medals in 30 years. He took out his old uniform, Green Beret cap, Special Forces badges. Everything was full of emotions. Then he looked at other photos. Team photos, post-operation celebrations, pictures taken while laughing with friends. Jimmy Rodriguez, died at 19. Tony Martinez, died at 22. Billy Thompson, died at 21. Frank remembered each one. Their voices, their laughter, their fears, their hopes. Maybe, he thought, Mike is right. Maybe these stories should be told. The next day, Frank was in his taxi, but felt different. The photo on the rearview mirror was no longer just an old memory. It was a story worth telling. His first customer was a young woman, college student. She noticed the photo. "Is this your photo?" she asked. Normally Frank would say old picture and close the subject. This time he did differently. "Yes," he said. "From Vietnam." "Really? Were you in Vietnam?" "Yes, Special Forces." The girl's eyes widened. "Wow, a real veteran." Frank smiled. "Yes, dear. Would you tell your stories?" Frank looked at her through the rearview mirror. Curious, respectful eyes. "Just like Mike's." "I would," he said, "if you want to listen." Today Frank Miller is still a taxi driver, but he's no longer just a taxi driver. He's now a storyteller. He tells Vietnam stories to young people who get in his taxi. He shares his experiences with kids who want to become soldiers. He shows high school students the real face of history. And in every story, he gives the same message. Real strength isn't physical strength, it's mental strength. And the most important thing, never leave your friends behind. Mike Torres successfully completed Green Beret selection. He now serves in Special Forces. He still keeps in touch with Frank. Mike sees Frank as his mentor. The photo on the rearview mirror is still there, but it's no longer a hidden secret. It's a shared story. And Frank realized that the most beautiful legacy is stories. Stories told so they won't be forgotten. Every year when he visits Jimmy's grave, he's no longer sad. He's proud, because Jimmy's story is no longer forgotten. It's being told to young generations. Have you ever encountered someone like this? Someone who appeared ordinary, but had an extraordinary story? Share in the comments, because at the Human Stories, we believe that real heroes don't always speak, but their stories need to be told. If you liked this story, subscribe and share. Stories of people like Frank Miller deserve to be heard. See you in the next story. Until then, if you get in a taxi and see an old photo on the rearview mirror, ask, maybe that driver has a story to tell too.